monarchy will be shifting in a slightly different direction.
I think it's safe to say that change is...
Prince William had expected resistance. He had prepared for an argument, perhaps even a confrontation behind closed palace doors. What he had not expected was betrayal from within. A private letter written by Catherine to Queen Camilla had escaped the royal household and reached the press, exposing a bitter disagreement over the future of a historic royal estate. By the time William saw the first headline, the damage was already spreading, and his anger was no longer containable. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William read the urgent message before breakfast, expecting a routine briefing. Instead, he found Catherine's private letter published online. He recognized her handwriting immediately. The Ravenscourt estate, a crown-linked residence reserved for the direct heir's family, had become a fight no one outside the palace was meant to see. Catherine had written directly to Camilla, opposing her demand for permanent residential and administrative control. That distinction mattered. Residence meant the right to live there. Administrative control meant power over the property, its staff, and its future use. Her warning was simple. Surrendering both would weaken William's position and place personal security above the continuity of the crown. The prince stared at the tablet as the truth settled in. The letter had passed through the private secretary's office, the department responsible for handling confidential royal correspondence, and only 5 employees were officially recorded as having access. Someone inside had deliberately copied it. Someone trusted had clearly chosen the press over the family. Catherine entered quietly and saw the headline over his shoulder. She did not deny the words. She did not apologize for defending the future of her children. Her face tightened only when she noticed that one paragraph was missing. "Who betrayed us?" she asked, and William had no answer. The omission changed everything. The removed passage said Camilla deserved security, but not control over an estate tied to the next reign. Without those lines, Catherine looked cold and hostile. The leak had not merely exposed her letter, it had rewritten her intention. William set the tablet down so sharply that a silver teaspoon fell from its saucer. He summoned his private secretary and ordered the access logs sealed. No employee connected to the letter was to leave palace grounds without questioning. Then another message arrived. Camilla had received the leaked story nearly an hour before William, and she had already requested a private meeting with Charles. But his fury was only one side of the crisis. Behind those stolen words stood 3 people, with 3 different fears, and each believed Ravenscourt represented far more than property. To the public, Ravenscourt was merely another royal residence hidden behind iron gates and ancient trees. To Catherine, it represented protection for her children. To Camilla, it promised security in a future she could not control. And to William, it was a test of whether the monarchy would honor succession or bend to private pressure. The leaked letter had not created these fears. It had simply dragged them into the light where none could be concealed. William understood why the estate mattered, long before the scandal erupted. Ravenscourt had been managed for decades as a retreat for the next monarch's household, meaning the family expected to support the future sovereign. As his duties grew, the prince and Catherine were meant to use it as a secure home where George, Charlotte, and Louis could remain protected from the pressure surrounding their father's eventual reign. Catherine did not see the property as a prize. She saw bedrooms where her children could sleep without strangers nearby, offices where William could work without uprooting the family, and a private refuge during the most demanding years ahead. Giving away permanent control would not simply change an address. It could leave the future king's household dependent on arrangements created for someone else. Camilla saw something equally personal. She wanted a lifetime agreement, guaranteeing that no future change in reign could remove her from Ravenscourt. The queen consort argued that the estate offered privacy, security, and continuity, after years spent under public judgment. Yet beneath those words lived a deeper fear. Once Charles could no longer defend her position, William might decide that her place within royal life had ended. The queen sat alone and read the leaked passages again. She circled one sentence slowly. A responsibility belonging to the future, not compensation for the present. Her hand remained steady, but her face tightened. Catherine had meant the line as a defense of succession. Camilla received it as a verdict on her worth. William suspected the leak had been timed with ruthless care. Public pressure could corner Charles into approving the transfer before opposition gathered around Catherine. The king would then appear cruel if he refused his wife's security, while the future queen would appear ambitious if she continued objecting. Someone had designed a trap in which every royal choice carried damage. Catherine had already tried to prevent that outcome. She had offered Camilla a renewable private use agreement, a formal arrangement allowing her to live at Ravenscourt while ownership and final authority remained with the heir's household. The queen consort rejected it because William would eventually control whether its terms continued. That refusal revealed the true conflict. Camilla did not merely want a home, she wanted certainty beyond William's reach. Yet the dispute had crossed its point of no return weeks earlier, during one carefully planned ceremony. To understand why Catherine finally wrote the letter, the story must return to the afternoon, when Camilla publicly spoke as though Ravenscourt had already become hers. The rupture did not begin with the letter. It began 3 weeks earlier beneath the stone arches of Ravenscourt, where a charitable garden ceremony was meant to celebrate restoration and public service. The speeches were brief, the applause polite, and the royal family appeared composed. Then Camilla stepped forward and delivered one unexpected sentence. Those words lasted only seconds, but Catherine immediately understood their significance. The future of the estate was being announced without her consent. Charles had arrived expecting a simple launch for a rural literacy foundation. The project was designed to support children in remote communities, and Ravenscourt had been chosen because its gardens and public rooms could host future events. Camilla appeared only as guest patron, meaning she was there to support the charity, rather than announce ownership, residency, or permanent authority over the property. William noticed nothing unusual at first. Local trustees thanked the king, members of the press recorded the prepared remarks, and Catherine listened as the queen praised the foundation's work. Then Camilla changed the tone. She thanked the trustees for helping her transform Ravenscourt into a lasting home from which I will continue my work for the rest of my life. The applause came quickly. Catherine turned toward William. She said nothing, yet the prince understood at once. Camilla had publicly created an expectation before any agreement had been signed. If Charles challenged her later, he would appear to withdraw security from his wife. If the future king objected, he could be accused of forcing her out. Catherine waited until the ceremony ended before confronting Camilla privately. She asked whether Charles had approved the words, "lasting home." The queen consort did not apologize. She answered that the king understood her need for certainty, and that the family should understand it too. Catherine felt the message beneath the response. The decision was being presented as settled, whether she agreed or not. William received an even darker warning minutes later. One of the trustees quietly handed him a draft estate agreement. A supervisory patron was not simply a ceremonial supporter. The role carried influence over staff, charitable programs, and long-term use of the property. The document named Camilla as Ravenscourt's proposed lifetime resident and supervisory patron. It had been prepared 2 days before the ceremony. Charles reacted with disbelief when his son showed him the wording. The king admitted that he had discussed personal residency, but never permanent administrative control. Camilla's public promise had gone far beyond what he believed he had offered. Catherine carried the ceremony program home that evening. She placed it beside the draft agreement, opened a fresh page, and began writing the confidential letter that would later be stolen. When Camilla received it, she did not answer Catherine. She carried the letter directly to Charles and demanded that he choose a side. The ceremony had created the dispute, but the leak would ignite the confrontation, bringing William and Camilla face to face without applause, protection, or room for polite retreat. William did not summon a council, issue a statement, or ask an aide to carry his anger for him. He walked directly to Camilla's private drawing room and ordered the doors closed. No photographers stood outside. No courtiers remained between them. On a table lay the leaked newspaper pages, Catherine's original letter, and the unsigned estate agreement. For the first time since the crisis began, the future king and the queen consort faced each other with nothing left to disguise. William entered carrying a security report that traced the breach to an administrative office connected to Camilla's household. The office handled schedules, correspondence, and internal files for her staff. According to the report, Catherine's letter had been opened, scanned, and copied there before the press received it. Camilla denied authorizing the disclosure. She insisted she would never willingly expose a private dispute involving Catherine, especially one tied to the future of the family. Her voice remained controlled, but the prince heard something beneath it. Not guilt, fear. William accused her of gaining exactly what the leak was designed to create: pressure. The scandal made Charles appear cruel if he denied his wife the estate, while Catherine looked ruthless if she continued opposing the arrangement. In one move, the future queen had been pushed into public hostility, and Camilla had been placed in the role of threatened widow before any decision had been made. Camilla struck back. She said Catherine's letter reduced her entire future to a temporary privilege controlled by William. The queen consort believed that once he became king, he could withdraw her residence, staff, and influence with a single decision. To her, Ravenscourt was not ambition. It was protection against being quietly erased. William pushed the unsigned estate agreement across the table. A lifetime clause meant the right would continue for the rest of Camilla's life, regardless of a future reign. He asked whether she had requested it. She did not touch the document. The silence stretched. Camilla finally admitted that she had. Then she disclosed, through her private account of the exchange, that an aide had warned her the letter would soon become public. The warning came before the first newspaper contacted the palace. She refused to identify the person, claiming the name would destroy someone who had only tried to protect her. William looked down at her copy of the letter and noticed a handwritten reference number in the corner. It matched an internal file created before Catherine's letter had formally entered the palace records. His anger changed. It became colder. Someone had expected Catherine to object. Someone had prepared the file before her words even arrived. The leak was not an impulsive betrayal. It had been built in advance. William declared that Ravenscourt would not be transferred until every access record had been examined. He left Camilla with the unsigned agreement still between them. Minutes later, Charles ordered him to stop the investigation. William believed he was defending his wife and the succession, but the moment the king intervened, the dispute stopped being a family argument and became a battle over who truly held power. The order arrived without explanation. William was to suspend the internal inquiry and surrender the estate papers to the king's office. For Charles, the command was an attempt to contain a scandal threatening both his wife and the institution he led. For his son, it felt like protection being offered to the wrong person. Behind the silence of the royal household, officials began choosing loyalties, and every signature suddenly carried the weight of succession. Charles knew the legal position was more complicated than the headline suggested. He could approve temporary residence at Ravenscourt, but any permanent change required the cooperation of the estate trustees and William's household. The trustees were the officials responsible for protecting the property's long-term purpose, while the heir's household represented the family expected to use it during the next reign. Senior courtiers urged the king to stop the inquiry before it spread. They warned that a full investigation could expose weak security, private correspondence, and rival lines of authority inside the palace. Charles understood their fear. If the public saw royal offices working against one another, the leak would become more than a family scandal. It would look like the monarchy had lost control of itself. The king read Catherine's complete letter alone. He reached the paragraph removed from the leaked version and slowly took off his glasses. She praised Camilla's years of public service and acknowledged her need for security, but warned that permanent control of Ravenscourt would create a precedent future monarchs could not easily reverse. Charles felt the trap close around him. Defending Catherine publicly would prove that the leak had distorted her words, yet it could also humiliate his wife. Protecting Camilla through silence would leave the future queen carrying blame for something she had never written. William refused to hand over the original access logs. An access log was the official record showing who opened, copied, or altered a protected file. The prince told his father that loyalty could not mean allowing Catherine to be sacrificed simply because the truth was inconvenient. Then the palace comptroller found the first hard break in the case. The comptroller, the official overseeing palace administration, discovered that one digital entry had been erased 15 minutes after the letter was scanned. The deleted entry belonged to Martin Vale, a deputy communications aide, recently promised a senior position in Camilla's proposed estate office. Suddenly, the leak had a name attached to it and a possible reward. Charles placed the unsigned agreement beside Catherine's letter. He uncapped his fountain pen, hovered above the page, then stopped. The king closed the folder and ordered Vale brought to him privately, but the aide was already gone. His office had been cleared, his phone switched off, and one locked drawer remained behind. Inside it, officials found a second copy of Catherine's letter. The missing aide transformed suspicion into panic, and as the palace searched for him, The first consequences began falling hardest on the woman whose words had been stolen. Catherine had written the letter to prevent a public battle. Now her private reasoning was being dissected as though it were a declaration of war. Commentators called her calculating. Anonymous briefings described her as impatient for power. Invitations were reconsidered. Staff phones rang without pause, and her children began noticing the tension adults were trying to hide. Yet the deepest wound was not the criticism. It was the knowledge that someone within the royal household had used her trust as a weapon. Catherine listened as the palace released a carefully neutral statement, calling the estate dispute a private family matter. The wording protected the institution, but it did nothing to protect her. By refusing to explain what the letter actually said, officials allowed edited extracts to dominate the coverage and made silence look like guilt. The distortion cut deeply. Published passages suggested that she wanted Camilla removed from Ravenscourt entirely, even though the complete letter offered continued residence under strict limits. Those limits mattered because they protected the estate for the next sovereign's family, while still giving the queen consort a secure home. Catherine had proposed balance. The leak presented cruelty. William sat beside her after George, Charlotte, and Louis had gone to bed. Catherine admitted that she regretted writing phrases others could twist, but she did not regret defending the future of their household. The prince told her that the fault was his. He had allowed palace staff to handle her private words like political ammunition, instead of protecting them as the concerns of his wife. Catherine opened a folder containing a prepared public statement. The first sentence expressed regret for any misunderstanding caused by her letter. She read it once, then tore the page in half. She would not apologize for words deliberately stripped of context. Regret would be treated as confession, and surrender would reward the person who had betrayed her. A trusted secretary arrived carrying the second copy recovered from Martin Vale's locked drawer. The pages contained handwritten instructions marking which paragraphs should be photographed and which must remain hidden. The directions transformed the leak from a reckless act into a planned attack. William studied the notes and noticed that the language did not match Vale's usual style. The phrases echoed briefing papers produced by Helena March, Camilla's senior household advisor. A senior advisor managed strategy, messaging, and access around a royal household, giving March both the knowledge and opportunity to shape the scandal. Camilla learned of the suspicion through a documented security briefing and dismissed March immediately. The queen consort called the action necessary to protect the household. William saw something more troubling. She might have removed the culprit or silenced the only person who could explain who ordered the leak. Catherine refused to let another advisor control what happened next. She requested a meeting with Camilla alone, without Charles, William, lawyers, or staff. After days of others speaking for them, the two women would finally face each other without protection and discover that the stolen letter had concealed a truth neither expected. There were no secretaries in the room, no husbands waiting behind adjoining doors, and no estate papers arranged as weapons between them. Catherine arrived carrying only the complete letter. Camilla had placed the leaked newspaper beside her chair. For several moments, neither woman spoke. Their conflict had been interpreted by aides, amplified by headlines, and reshaped by fear. Now they had to decide whether they truly stood against one another, or whether someone had profited from making them believe they did. Catherine had requested the meeting because she wanted her words heard without advisors changing their meaning. The complete letter mattered because it showed what the edited version concealed. She had never demanded Camilla's removal. She had objected only to permanent control of an estate tied to William's future household and the children who would one day carry the burden of succession. Camilla agreed to meet after receiving a documented security briefing showing repeated contact between Helena March and Martin Vale during the week before the leak. Those communications mattered because March shaped strategy inside her household, while Vale controlled access to sensitive press material. Together, they had the reach to create a scandal and the motive to force the estate agreement forward. Catherine spoke first. She told Camilla that Ravenscourt was never about pushing her aside after Charles's reign. It was about protecting the home, staff, and working structure William would need when his responsibilities became heavier. Denying permanent authority was not the same as denying dignity. Camilla answered with equal honesty. She feared that William would eventually remove every role and residence connected to her position. The queen consort admitted that private promises frightened her, because promises could disappear when power changed hands. She had demanded certainty because she believed the future king might quietly erase her from royal life. Catherine placed the complete letter in Camilla's hands and asked her to read the missing paragraph aloud. Her voice remained controlled until she reached the sentence, acknowledging the loneliness of marrying into the crown. Then it faltered. For the first time, she understood that the woman across from her had recognized that fear and had still tried to protect the future. Camilla disclosed through her private account of March's warnings that the advisor repeatedly claimed Catherine intended to force her out. March urged her to demand permanent control before William gained greater authority. The pattern was suddenly clear. Both women understood the design. March wanted leadership of an expanded Ravenscourt office. Vale leaked the letter. Public pressure increased, and approval of the new structure would have rewarded them both. Camilla abandoned her demand for administrative control. Catherine offered a binding lifetime residence guarantee, meaning no future disagreement could remove her home out of personal hostility. Together, they carried the proposal to Charles and William. The private agreement ended the battle inside the family. But beyond the palace gates, the stolen letter had already become a national symbol of distrust, succession, and royal survival. By sunrise, the dispute had escaped every palace effort to contain it. Broadcasters debated whether Catherine had defended the crown or challenged the queen consort. Crowds gathered at royal gates, newspapers printed special editions, and commentators treated Ravenscourt as a symbol of the monarchy's uncertain future. Yet one image, not the letter itself, would alter the public mood. It showed two royal women leaving the same meeting together. Neither victorious, neither defeated, and both visibly changed. News outlets first framed the leak as a direct struggle between Catherine's future authority and Camilla's current influence. The future queen appeared to be defending succession, while the queen consort seemed to be fighting for survival. Ravenscourt had become more than an estate. It now represented the uneasy line between the present reign and the one waiting behind it. Palace officials confirmed that Martin Vale and Helena March had been removed from royal service pending a full security investigation. A security investigation is a formal inquiry into who accessed protected information, how it was used, and whether palace rules or laws were broken. Their removal shifted the story away from family rivalry and toward deliberate manipulation. The London Chronicle captured the scandal in one brutal front page. The letter, the estate, the betrayal. Beside the headline appeared Catherine entering the palace alone, and Camilla holding the complete document after their private meeting. The contrast struck the public immediately. One woman had carried the burden of accusation. The other had finally seen what had been hidden. Outside Buckingham Palace, a small crowd gathered beneath umbrellas as an evening broadcast played through a reporter's monitor. Silence held until the presenter announced that Ravenscourt would remain protected for the heir's household, while Camilla received lifetime residential security. Then applause broke out. The settlement felt fair because it preserved the future without threatening her home. William remained the most divisive figure. Some accused him of turning an internal leak into a constitutional drama. Others praised the prince for refusing to let Catherine's private correspondence be edited and weaponized without consequence. His anger had caused disruption, but it had also forced the palace to confront a betrayal it might otherwise have buried. Charles watched the coverage beside his son and lowered the sound. The king admitted that the monarchy had nearly allowed two women to become enemies because the men around them feared an honest conversation. William did not answer immediately. He knew the judgment included them both. Catherine then authorized the release of the omitted paragraph. Her complete words proved that compassion had been deliberately removed from the leak, and public anger shifted toward the aides who had engineered the conflict. Camilla was no longer viewed simply as the opponent. Catherine was no longer treated as the aggressor. Both emerged as targets of a calculated scheme. The truth had been restored, but one decision remained. Charles still had to settle Ravenscourt and define where present privilege ended and future duty began. The scandal had exposed betrayal, fear, and ambition, but only the king's final ruling could turn those wounds into a lasting settlement. The final meeting took place in the same room where the unsigned estate agreement had first divided the family. This time, no advisors controlled the language, and no hidden copies waited to be leaked. Charles sat at the head of the table, with William, Catherine, and Camilla facing him. Before them rested a new document, shorter, clearer, and built not around victory, but around boundaries. What followed would settle Ravenscourt and redefine how the monarchy protected both its present and its future. Charles rejected the proposal granting Camilla permanent administrative control of the estate. That authority would remain with the household of the direct heir, meaning the family responsible for supporting the next sovereign. Ravenscourt would continue serving William, Catherine, and their children when the demands of the future reign grew heavier. The king approved a separate legal agreement guaranteeing Camilla lifetime residence in a private part of the property. The agreement gave her staff, security, and personal independence without allowing her to control the estate's future. She would have certainty. William would preserve the inheritance attached to his role. Charles then admitted what silence had cost them. His instinct to protect his wife had made him delay a clear decision, and that uncertainty gave ambitious advisors room to divide the households. The monarch had believed hesitation would prevent pain. Instead, it had allowed fear to become a weapon. William turned toward Catherine and apologized. The prince admitted that he had defended the investigation before publicly defending the full meaning of her letter. She had faced judgment alone, while others debated whether telling the truth would damage the palace. His fury began as protection, but she had still carried the first blow. Catherine signed the settlement and passed the pen to Camilla. The queen consort paused, then placed her name beneath it. That simple act ended the dispute through mutual consent, not humiliation. Neither woman had defeated the other. Both had refused to remain enemies. Charles ordered a permanent reform requiring confidential correspondence about royal property to pass through an independent security office, a separate department designed to prevent competing households from controlling sensitive records. Helena March and Martin Vale were permanently dismissed, stripped of palace access, and referred for investigation over the theft and manipulation of protected material. Camilla returned Catherine's original letter as the meeting ended. She said private words should remain with the person who had possessed the courage to write them. Catherine accepted it without celebration, because clearing her name did not erase the betrayal. Ravenscourt remained part of the heir's legacy. Camilla's home was secured. Catherine's intentions were restored, and Charles finally respected the future William represented. The scandal ended not with one royal defeating another, but with the monarchy surviving because 4 people finally refused to let secrecy speak louder than truth. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.